Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mongooli's movie show. This is the second episode, and I'm already all by myself, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm hoping you'll go gentle on me. What we're going to be talking about today is the same stuff we talk about every day. We'll just do a little bit of catch up, what have we been watching recently, what have we been doing. I've got a couple of new movies that I've seen recently, and we're going to get into our main topic, which this week is going to be the summer movie season. Now, obviously, it's June. There's already been a couple of major blockbusters. One of my favorite movies that I was looking forward to the most has already come out. I've already seen it twice, and we'll definitely touch on that. But there's still a bunch of movies coming out that we're going to look at some of the trailers for, talk about them a little bit, and kind of whether or not I'm actually excited to see them or if I'm even going to bother and see them. So what we're going to do is break those down, go over it. First off, if you are checking this out on Facebook, please do me a favor and consider, where is it? Heading over to YouTube, checking me out there, signing on and subscribing, giving this video a like. All of that really matters, and I'm trying to grow this channel out a little bit. There's also the ability to go over to my Discord if you want to join the conversation when this video is not happening. I'll put these links on the video multiple times, and I'll add them to the description once the video is over. But essentially, if you go to discord.io/The Mongooli Show, we have a small little community. It's growing. You can join that. And why not? I figured I'd go on Twitch too. I had a channel from a couple of years ago. It never really took off. I kind of got interested in other things. So I figured try and revive that because why not? But the one that I'm really trying to work on is the YouTube channel. If you can check me out over there, I'd greatly appreciate it. If not, if you just want to see me on Facebook, that's fine too. I appreciate your time. Anything you're willing to do is fine by me, as long as you're hanging out and, being nice. So, got the chat up. If you want to say hi, you're welcome to. It's right there. I'll put you on the screen, so your chat on the screen, so you can kind of be immortalized in the video if that's something you're interested in. Other than that, let's get into it. This week, I have not been playing very many video games. I've been busy making a lot of streams, stuff like that, so I haven't had a chance to play anything more. I did play a little bit of Diablo 4 with some friends on the weekend, and that was actually a lot of fun. It's way more fun with other people. I am enjoying the game, but quite frankly, if you're not playing with other people, it does drag a little bit. As far as this weekend goes, I watched Across the Spider-Verse again. I saw it with my kids and my wife and my nephew, and we had a great time. What I did notice, though, was because we went to see a matinee for Across the Spider-Verse, it was a very different feeling in the theater. What I mean by that is there was a lot of kids in the theater, and while that was great and they laughed at certain parts, there were a lot of parts that the more mature audience laughed at that they didn't laugh at. They didn't seem to get. There were a lot of cameos and stuff like that like people were cheering for in the movie theater the first time I saw it. Crickets the second time. So it was a really, really different experience. You did get to hear a lot more of the dialogue, which was kind of nice because there were definitely some things that I missed, and there were some little Easter eggy things that I just didn't quite catch the first time that were really cool to see again. Highly, highly recommend this movie. Absolutely loved it. But try and go with more, assuming this is your thing, try to go with more of an adult crowd. I feel like I got more out of it, and I enjoyed the movie more seeing it with adults who were getting all the jokes. I'm sure kids enjoyed it. My kids absolutely loved it. But there were a lot of times where they just weren't laughing when I was laughing, or at least what I was chuckling at. Very interesting experience. I have to say, I did watch a movie over the weekend called Fall. It's on Netflix. It is from 2022. Very little movie, directed by Scott Mann, starring Grace Caroline Curry and screen's too small to see her name, and Virginia Gardner. It's two women who climb this giant satellite tower out in the middle of nowhere, and of course the tower breaks and they're stuck up there for a couple of days. I personally, I don't want to say that I hated this movie. I actually thought the movie was really cool. I thought it was a good concept. It's one of the hardest watches I've ever sat through. I'm terrified of heights, and even though I was only watching this on my 65-inch, I wasn't in a theater or anything like that, I was getting serious vertigo. I was getting not quite nauseous, but just really, really uncomfortable watching this movie, to the point where there were times where I would have to get out my phone, not from boredom, but just I had to focus on something else. I almost had to remind myself to breathe. Now, I'm going to stress that I am extremely afraid of heights. I am a bit of a wuss when it comes to that. So your mileage may vary. If you're not afraid of heights, you might watch this movie and be like, what are you talking about? This is really boring. They're just stuck on a tower for 2 hours. I'll also admit I thoroughly enjoy movies like that where they're really self-contained, whether it's Phone Booth, Clerks, Buried with Ryan Reynolds, Locke with Tom Hardy, where you're in one central location. You've seen somewhere else, but you're mostly just in one location. I like movies like that. London with Chris Evans and Jessica Biel is fantastic. So I'm predisposed to like it because they're stuck in one location, and I'm predisposed to hate it because they're so high up the entire time, and it just makes me nauseous. There are a couple of twists in this movie. I won't spoil anything. There's a couple of twists in this movie I didn't see coming. There was one incredibly obvious twist that you see coming the second the movie starts, and it's just kind of like, just get it over with. Like, we all know it's coming. Just move on. But this one is a high recommend for me if you're looking for something tense but not outright scary. There's no slasher in this. There's a bit of blood. There's a bit of gore, but like not really, not what you're used to if you really want to watch a horror movie. I have to say, like, it did very well for its $3 million budget. Apparently, they actually did create a tower, so they wanted to give some height to this thing. So they put a tower about 100 feet off the ground on top of a mountain, so that when they do those wide shots, you do get this real sense of perspective, like you are really up high. And that really works. Like, they're still 100 feet in the air. Like, there's still a terrible drop if they were to fall off or something. These characters were not really acting like they were up all that high, which I thought was really weird. Maybe that's just how people who aren't afraid of heights act, but I would have been bear hugging that pole the entire time. At no point were they tied to the pole, which I definitely would have done. Just be like, nope, I'm staying up here. Very interesting movie. Brought in a massive $21 million. That doesn't sound like much, but you consider they only spent $3 million making this movie. That's the kind of hit. It's not a Blumhouse movie, but it feels like it should be, because Blumhouse really likes to do that, where they make like a $2 million movie and it makes $30 million. And even though that's not a lot of money, when your investment is $2 million, let's say $3 million with advertising, you're getting 10 times your investment. Like, that's insane. So this is, again, fun movie. I recommend. Go check it out. Fall. You can find it on Netflix. As far as... Totally blank there for a second. My bad. We're going to go into some of the movies that are coming out this summer, and some of the ones on my list have already come out. I'm going to reference things going back as far as, I think, Super Mario Brothers is where I'm going to count the start of the movie season, where we're starting to ramp up into the big movies. So you're going to have Super Mario Brothers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Verse. These have all already come out. We're just going to watch a quick little trailer and talk about it, kind of break it down a little bit, see how it goes. I was really hoping to have somebody else on the podcast for this, but you get me. You get all Dan all the time. So I apologize for that. I wish you better. But let's check out really quickly the trailer for Super Mario. Worth noting that as a huge Super Mario fan, cameras over there, I need to get used to that, for my entire life, this movie is just full of Easter eggs and stuff like that I picked up on. My kids didn't, but it was a lot of fun. There's so many little things that you will notice if you are a longtime fan. Donkey Kong, voiced by Seth Rogen, I thought was actually a lot of fun. The one choice I don't necessarily understand is why they had Chris Pratt voice Mario. And now, I'm not against Chris Pratt. I have no issues with him whatsoever. And I actually think he did an okay job as a voice actor. I mean, in the Lego movie, he's absolutely hilarious as a voice actor. But for Mario, you've got, and I totally just blanked on his name. That didn't help. You've got Charles Martinet, who's been playing Mario. Like, he's been the voice of Mario since 1991. He did Mario Teaches Typing back in 1991, and he has been Mario universally ever since then until this movie. Now, he is in this movie. He actually plays Mario's dad, but, like, why? Like, I feel like Mario sold this movie, and Chris Pratt didn't put a single butt in a seat. Like, I don't know that anybody went to see this for Chris Pratt. And if he's not adding to the tickets, why pay extra? Like, I'm sure you could have gotten an absolute steal buying Charles Martinet. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that last name right. You could get him for like a fraction of the price, and he would have sounded exactly like Mario. Kids could go from playing their video game to watching the movie, back to playing the game. It would be seamless. And now you've got this, like, well, why does Mario sound like this? Like, we're not going to be paying for Chris Pratt to voice Mario in the next game going forward. So why? It's just one of those weird decisions that just kind of irked me. Again, don't have a problem with Chris Pratt. I think he's fine. I think he did a great job. I just don't really understand why you inflate the budget like that. The movie cost $100 million roughly to make. I have to assume a significant chunk of that. Was Chris Pratt's paycheck. Could have cut a bunch of that off. That being said, the movie made $1.3 billion so far. It's still in theaters if you can find it. It's doing just fine. When you consider that Nintendo has made a couple of movies throughout the years, starting way back when with The Wizard back in 1989, I think it was, which technically was a success, despite the fact that it got terrible reviews and basically was just called a commercial, it actually did make money. Like, they spent something incredibly small, like $3 million on it, $2 million, something like that, and it actually made like $26 million, which for 1989, for an absolute advertisement of a movie, I've never seen it. I'll admit it's always been on my wish list, but I've never actually gotten around to it. That's not bad. Skip to 1991, they make the Mario Brothers movie. They spend an insane amount of money on it, something like $100 million. Again, in 1991, that's a lot of money. No, that's not true. They spent like $48 million on it, and it made like 36. So they actually lost money. Not only do they not make enough money to make their money back, they lost like $12 million on that. And Nintendo got shy-footed from that for decades. It wasn't until the Pokemon movie 10 or 11 years later that they even tried putting something in theaters. Now, it did okay as animated. They put out a bunch of sequels to it. And then Detective Pikachu back in 2016, 2017, that was their first official like hit. That one cost like $80 million and brought in like 413. That's a really good return on investment. And it kind of showed Nintendo like, okay, maybe we can do a little bit more. Maybe we can reach out a little bit. Maybe we can try something else. They finally made the Mario Brothers movie, which people have been clamoring about for ages, ever since the original one came out and was awful and had nothing to do with Mario. And it was a massive hit for them. It's made 12 to almost 13 times its budget, which is insane. Over $1 billion. One of the first animated movies to ever make over $1 billion. So they are laughing right now. And so, of course, news on the street right now is that they are in talks with Universal to make a Legend of Zelda movie. It's just in talks, and with the writer's strike going on right now, we are years away from it. But I'm excited for it. If they can do for Legend of Zelda what they just did for Mario, like just make it more authentic, make it more true to him. Again, animated. I don't need to see it live action. That would be a lot of fun. I would be all in for it. I would definitely want to check that out. Legend of Zelda. Mario is an incredibly fun platforming game, but Legend of Zelda actually has a really interesting story. I would put Ocarina of Time probably in my top 5 video games of all time. Not that I necessarily go back and revisit it all that much, but just for the memories that it invokes and like the way that it made me feel back in 1997, I want to say, when it came out for the N64. Absolutely phenomenal franchise. Definitely hope they make a movie. Definitely hope they do it justice, just like they did for this one. That was Mario. Let's move on to the next one, which was Guardians, which came out in, don't have the date. Oh, May 5th. May 5th of the year. So it's already been out for quite some time. It is doing just fine, albeit not as good at the box office as I thought it was. It cost them $250 million to make this movie. And so far it's brought in about $800 million worldwide. I would have thought that it would have crossed that billion mark. I'm a little surprised it didn't. I really enjoyed this movie, but let's take a quick look at the trailer and we'll go from there. If anybody's watching and the sound is not good, please say something in the comments. Let me know. I'm not generally the biggest Guardians of the Galaxy fan. Like, I liked the first one just fine. I thought the second one was okay. I hated the holiday special. I really liked this movie. I thought this movie was probably my favorite in the series. It needs the other two to get here so that it all makes sense and then you feel that emotional weight. Again, I'm looking at the wrong camera. But there is an emotional weight to this movie. It is really, really good. Look at that little baby Rocket Raccoon. He's so cute. It's been out for a little while. You probably know that he's got a couple of friends, little baby animal friends, and they are absolutely adorable. I will not spoil this movie or any of the movies that I've seen without letting you know that I'm about to, so you're safe there. But some of the places this movie goes are really funny and emotional. As with all of James Gunn movies, the soundtrack is just incredible. Even the way they use the song in the trailer just works so powerful. There's a lot of things about thick Groot, but it's worth mentioning that that is not Groot that you know. That is not Groot from Guardians 1. This is actually Groot's son. So the fact that he grows up and looks a little different is actually totally fine. Give Vin Diesel all those paychecks. This is one that I'm looking forward to owning on home video. I definitely want to watch it again. I saw that one with a couple of friends, with a friend, had a great time, would love to bring it home, be able to watch it with the kids. Thought it was just fantastic. James Gunn obviously directed that one. I hate how it keeps doing that. James Gunn directed that one, as he did Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, the first two Guardians, like he did the entire trilogy, and now he's moving over to DC. So if you like his work, you're going to get more of it, just not in the Marvel universe like we're used to. So that's unfortunate. But I am still very, very much looking forward to what he's going to bring to the table and what his DC lineup is going to look like. We have talked about that a little bit on the other channel, actually, not on this channel, but that's a topic we'll get to in the future because there's a lot of things that he announced, and I'm curious to see what they're going to look like. All right, next up was one that I definitely was not interested in, and there was a lot of controversy around this one, and I guarantee you the reason I didn't want to see it is not for the controversial reasons that you might be thinking if you pay attention to Twitter and the internet. It's The Little Mermaid. It came out on May 26th. It's been out for a little while. It has barely made its money back. This one is not doing for Disney what Disney was hoping that it would do. It cost $250 million to make, which is a lot of money. It's a remake, obviously. It has brought in $414 million worldwide, and that's not enough. Like, it's 3 weekends in at this point. It needs to have been making a lot more money than this because this movie doesn't have legs. I promise you I didn't plan that. Directed by Rob Marshall, who you might know from Chicago, Mary Poppins Returns, Into the Woods. He's definitely worked with Disney quite a bit, bringing some of their stuff to live action, bringing back Mary Poppins as a character. I don't think he's the problem with this movie. I can't really say. I haven't seen this movie. My kids enjoyed it. My sister is a huge Disney fan. She really enjoyed it. Just nothing about these trailers interests me. And I just haven't liked any of the Disney live action movies. So while you might criticize for being like, oh, you know, the problem with her skin color and all that, that's not an issue for me. I don't care. I think you just hire the best person for the job. I'm totally fine with that. Elizabeth Jones loved Little Mermaid. That's awesome. I'm so glad that you did. I'm not talking negatively for it. I'm just saying, for me personally, I didn't like Aladdin, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast. Like, they just don't hit the same way that the cartoon ones do, because I know the cartoon movies so incredibly well. So it just didn't appeal to me. Now, if my kids had come back, or if every review had come back being like, this is a 10 out of 10, this is absolutely amazing, maybe that would have been enough to change my mind. But as it was, this one was a skip for me. We're going to give it a quick look just so we can see what we're talking about. This is the wrong trailer. 1 second. There we go. Second episode. We'll figure some things out. Oh, Liz saw it in 3D. Curious what that added to the experience. How did the fish look? Because, like, I don't know. All the things in Beauty and the Beast, all the, like, cutlery and furniture looked real weird to me. I haven't really looked at this trailer all that much. I don't really know what the animals look like, but feels like one of those ones you didn't have to bring into live action. She looks good. I will give it that. Like, she looks good. Her tail looks good. Her movement looks convincing. Javier Bardem playing her dad. I would love to see Haley Bailey in something outside of this. I hope she does get a good career out of this. The fact that there was so much internet backlash and the movie's not doing amazing might be a bit of an issue for such a young career, but you can't deny her talent. Her voice is insane. Better than the other live action ones. That's good to hear. It's good to hear. I like that. I believe Aquafina plays Scuttle. I think she has a song even. Yeah, those fish actually look pretty okay. That scene there where she like splashes up against the rock and her hair goes everywhere and the waves came up. I can remember my sister and her cousin playing in the pool and like purposely trying to recreate that from the cartoon back in the 80s. Oh, I'm getting old. Um, Elizabeth, thank you so much for all the comments. They added some new songs, a rap that were great, very fun entertainment. Excellent. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. That's really good to hear. I don't want the movie to do poorly. I can't stress enough. Like I don't ever want a movie to do bad. None, no movies that I can think of at least. So if this movie is really good, if people are having fun with it, that's awesome. That's what I want to see. I want to see the theaters doing really, really well, no matter what movie it is. I don't want it to fail. I don't want it to be bad. I'm not here trying to talk you out of it. I'm just explaining for me personally why I wasn't interested in it and why I'm not going to be spending the money to go see it in the theaters. Plus, my kids have already seen it in the theaters, so we don't need to go twice. My apologies. Little Mermaid, not a whole lot else to say on that one, so we're going to move ahead to my most anticipated movie of the year, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, obviously, we talked about this last week, so I'm not going to go super far in depth on this, other than to say this movie's great. It's gotten my ticket twice. I took my whole family to see it the second time. I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't seen it and you did like the first one, go check this out. Go see it on theaters. It's absolutely worth the experience. It's just a ton of fun. But let's get into it. Oh, the art style is just gorgeous. And they do a really good job. Like, you actually care about Miles. Like, I'll say that I just saw Transformers, and every time a Transformer wasn't on screen, I didn't care about the movie. Whereas for Miles Across the Spider-Verse, even when he wasn't being Spider-Man, when he was just being Miles or when he was just hanging out with Gwen, I still was really engaged, still really enjoyed the movie. And that's a really impressive thing for especially a cartoon to do, to engage you so hard with the characters that you don't need the action, you don't need the big bombastic pieces, just every little bit of it just draws you in. Such an emotional movie too. Like it hits on a couple of levels. Very fun, very emotional, great music, great art. I'm talking myself into seeing it again, I swear. I'm in. That's just between me and Liz there, but I'm in. I was nervous when I first saw this trailer that they were revealing too much. They were telling me too much about the story. And I won't spoil anything without letting you know, but I will say they don't. Like, what you might think watching this trailer isn't what the movie really is, to an extent. Um, I I was all in. Like this, I was having such a blast with this movie. Of course, they had to get the meme in there. Oh, just an absolutely incredible film. I cannot say enough good things about it. It's been out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, and has already made 4 times its budget. It is doing just fine, and it's holding its numbers. It's going to have another great weekend coming up, I'm sure. Transformers coming out didn't touch it, I don't think. I mean, Transformers is doing pretty well too, actually, but Spider-Verse just did incredibly well. $100 million budget, already up to $390 million worldwide. And that might sound weird because Little Mermaid made $400 million and I was poo-pooing that, but it also cost $250 million. This cost less than half, almost a third. Like, well, that's not really how math works, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it was a lot less, and it's doing very, very, very well. Transformers Rise of the Beast, I was originally going to do like a whole spoiler discussion on it, and I just don't think that it's worth it. For one, I don't really have anybody to talk to with it. Like, it'd be nice to have that back and forth. But also, there was nothing really to spoil about this movie. Like, I feel like I could talk about this movie, the things that I really liked, the things that I didn't, and not have to spoil it. I will show the trailer in a second. We'll kind of go over my thoughts on it. But for me, if you absolutely hate the Transformers movies, this will not change your mind. It just won't. That being said, I fell off the Transformers movies. I watched Transformers as a kid, huge fan growing up, big fan to this day of the cartoon series. Well, in theory, at least the lore. And the movies have been getting progressively worse and worse and worse until Bumblebee came out. Bumblebee was actually a really good movie that I thoroughly enjoyed. It's my favorite of the Transformers movies. So when they brought this Rise of the Beasts out and said it's going to be more like Bumblebee and less like Michael Bay, it's not directed by Michael Bay, I was really excited for it. A lot of the reviews started coming in, and they were all really pumped for it, really high praise. Even people who hated the other Transformers movies, kind of like me, were saying really good things about it. So I was really, really pumped for it. I got out of the theater for this movie 2.5 hours ago, so I'm still riding a little bit high off of it. I didn't love it as much as I wanted to, and maybe those good reviews actually raised my level up a little bit too high, like my excitement level, my anticipation. I was maybe a little bit too anticipated for it, thinking that it was going to be really, really great because some reviewers had said that. It fell short of that. Now, I will say, of the 7 Transformers live-action movies, not including the 1986 cartoon, of the 7 live-action movies, it's probably my 3rd favorite, and I never watched last night. I just gave up on the Michael Bay ones. I would put Bumblebee at number 1, probably the 2007 original one at 2nd, and then this 3rd. As I said, every time that the Transformers are on screen, it's a lot of fun. It looks so much better than the ones that have come before it. It does the action way better than the Michael Bay movies, which I always found were way too zoomed in, so you couldn't see what was happening. Like, you're so close up, and maybe that's a restriction of the technology at the time. That's totally a possibility. But nonetheless, this movie allowed you to zoom out a little bit more. You got to see the characters. Maybe they looked a little bit video gamey, but not in a way that I felt was bad. Like they do fall into some of those tropes of like the Skybeam ending and like you're fighting an army of faceless monsters. You know what I mean? Like they're like not every enemy is a named character. A bunch of them are just like robots. So it falls into some of those plot holes. But and the live action people in this movie, while I think they did a good job of like acting their parts, I just never cared about them. That's not why I go to a Transformers movie. I want to see the Transformers and not just in the battle scenes. I would love for them to make, other than Bumblebee, which actually did a good job of this, take one of the Transformers and make them your emotional center of the movie. Make it so you care what happens to them and what they're trying to do, and then have them be in the action scenes as well, so you care when they're in action scenes. This movie did a lot of things right for me, but it didn't quite do as much as I was hoping it would do. I ultimately left the theater happy, though, and realistically, isn't that what you're looking for when you go to a movie? So, gets a thumbs up, but not the 2 thumbs up that I was really hoping that it would. Anyways, I realized I've talked this whole time. I could have been playing the trailer, so my bad. As I said, like, it looks good. Optimus Prime looks significantly more like he's supposed to in the 80s, as opposed to the flaming truck that he was in the Michael Bay movies. The Beasts, if you ever watched Beast Wars as a cartoon back in the late 90s, they started off looking like animals. And then as the toy line moved on, they kind of became more and more robotic looking. So I understand what they're doing here. But if the whole point of a Transformer is that you're supposed to be able to go to a world and blend in, the animals in this don't. Like they clearly look like robots who are supposed to look like animals as opposed to like animals. So that was a weird little thing. Didn't necessarily take me out of the movie, but it was just one of those like that's an interesting choice to not have them do the one thing that they're supposed to do, which is fit in. Oh, that Prime though. Peter Cullen has been playing Optimus Prime since 1984. That's 2 years after I was born. He's been playing the role for 38 years. I bet money when he took the role, he did not realize this was going to be a career for him. I was looking at some of his other credits from back then, like things like Snorks, which I haven't thought about in 30 years. He was Mogwai in the first Gremlins movie. Like, he's got a pretty decent little career going. He's been in hundreds of projects, always very small though, but like pretty much every time there's a Transformers anything, he's Optimus Prime. Super little thing. Optimus Prime never could take away his face mask. You never saw his mouth in the comics or the cartoon or anything like that. It's really weird that they're so intent on showing you his mouth in the movies when that's just extra work that they have to do. Like, it's such an easy fix to just leave that like face mask up so that you can't see his mouth. And then the animators actually have an easier job, and the purists prefer it. I don't know, maybe for the casuals, they like being able to see his mouth move. Who knows? Not really sure what the decision is there. It was a fun movie. I have no complaints for having seen it, especially see it in theaters. Like, the graphics do look really, really good on it. I do recommend, if you're interested in seeing it, see it in theaters. See it as big as you can. It's a lot of fun. It's not perfect. It's not quite as great as everybody was saying it was, but it gets a thumbs up. And as far as how well it's doing, it had a budget of $200 million, and Liz likes the mouth moving. So there, I'm wrong. People do like it. It's already made $110 million, and it's only been out for 4 days. It came out on June 9th. It's what, the 13th? So yeah, 4 days. It's made $110 million, almost half of its budget. Well, over half its budget if you don't include promotions and stuff like that. I hope this one keeps going. I hope this one does become profitable, because I do like the direction they're taking the Transformers movies, and I would like them to keep going without Michael Bay. Next up, so here's the first one that's not actually out yet that we're going to talk about. It's The Flash. It comes out in a couple of days. Comes out this probably Thursday, but essentially, actually Friday is what they're going to advertise it as. This movie is interesting. If you haven't been paying attention to the controversies surrounding Ezra Miller for the last year and a half, there are going to be people boycotting this movie because he's in it, because he's kind of proven himself to be kind of an awful person behind the scenes. Why are the WB allowing him to still be in this movie and push it forward? They say that this is the greatest superhero movie ever made. They're pushing this as being better than The Dark Knight. That's what they're saying about this movie. I'm pretty, like, that's obviously just like hype. Like, they're just trying to get some ticket sales going, and I get that. But that's an incredibly high bar to set. Like, Dark Knight is incredible. A lot of people absolutely love it. To even compare it to that is, I think, kind of dangerous, because if you just say it's good, then people go in thinking, oh, it'll be good. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. But if people are just saying it's amazing, and people go in being like, it's okay, like, you're just kind of setting yourself up to fail a little bit there. That being said, they know what they're doing. They're relying very heavily on the Michael Keaton of it all, which is why a lot of people are going to see it, myself included. Michael Keaton, from the 1989 Batman specifically, was my Batman as a child. I was a little too old for Adam West, and nobody else had come out yet to ruin the franchise. Val Kilmer and George Clooney and whatnot. Michael Keaton's amazing. He's proven himself to be a phenomenal actor. Again, he took like a 20-year hiatus, or at least wasn't in anything big, and has come back in a very big way. So to see him reprise this role is actually really cool, and I hope it lives up. It sounds like his role in this movie is actually really good. Whether the movie is the perfect 10 that they're trying to tell you that it is another story. But let's get into it. Love they're bringing Ben Affleck back. It makes me sad that this is the end of the DCU because you won't get another Ben Affleck movie or Batfleck movie, if you will. But I'm glad that they at least brought him back for this. That's a lot of fun. Two Ezra Millers. Bringing Michael Shannon back as Zod is a very interesting choice. Because you're apparently not bringing Henry Cavill back as Superman, which kind of baffles me. Yeah, there you go. I don't think I've seen this trailer. That was cool. Did you see that? The silhouette against the moon? Didn't quite settle on it like they did in the '89 movie, but still had it there. I like that. Now that looks like Christian Bale's Batmobile or Bat Cycle, whatever you want to call it. But I'm confident he's not in this. Oh, that's the '89 Batmobile. Oh, see, that's the kind of crap that's going to get me to spend money on this movie at the theaters. Oh, wrong one. That's insane. Well done on them. 1 second. Technical. So bringing back Michael Keaton, bringing back the '89 Batmobile, which is my favorite version of the Batmobile from comics, TV shows, whatever. Like that car, again, probably because I was like 7 when it came out, so of course it was the coolest thing ever. I love that they're bringing it back to even just for a glimpse like that. Like even if they never drive it and it was just that would be pretty cool. There is I live in Ontario in Canada, and there is a billionaire in the area who puts on a car show every year. And when I went there, he actually had that Batmobile there. They brought it in, I think, must have been on like a truck bed or something, because there's no way that thing can be driven. To open the doors, it actually required having something underneath it because there's so much molding to give it the shape that it is that it would break the hinges. Like it's an absolutely ludicrous vehicle. Like there's no way it's practical in any way, shape, or form, but it's really cool and I like it. And it was really fun seeing it in person. I would have died if they would have let us sit in it, but there were so many people there. There's no way. Bad things would have happened to it for sure. It was just kind of cool to be in the area of it. They did also have the 1966 Batmobile, like the convertible one, which was cool, but that was never my Batman. So it didn't hit in the same way. Liz says that about that Batmobile was at the CN exhibition years ago. Very cool. Did you actually get to see it, or you just know that it was there? Be curious to hear about that. The movie cost $220 million, which is not the biggest on this list. We got a couple of 250 millions, and the next one is actually the budget on the next one just absolutely blew me away. Liz did see it, which is very cool. I'm glad you got to see that. $220 million for this is a huge investment. I really hope this does well. I think the better this does, the better chance we have of getting like Henry Cavill or Ben Affleck back. But both of them, like Henry Cavill, they've been pretty confident they don't want to come back. I'm not entirely sure why, because there's so much goodwill behind that guy. Love him to death. He's a nerd. I'm a nerd. Of course, I'm a big fan. Ben Affleck, they've kind of burnt. They want him to come back, but he's kind of over it, right? Like every time he tries to do something big like that, the internet kind of turns against him. He's kind of in a better place mentally to just do the smaller projects that he can kind of just put out. Like Air, I think was really good for him, did really well. No complaints. You don't hear anything about him in the tabloids about it, right? But then, Ben Affleck makes Batman movies, and all of a sudden there's sad Affleck and him eating Dunkin' Donuts, and the internet just turns on him. I don't really know why, because I really actually liked his portrayal. Not a great movie, Justice League, the first one, the Joss Whedon cut. Neither was Batman v Superman, but I really liked him in them. This one, The Flash, directed by Andy Muschietti. directed the first two It movies and Mama, so more of a horror movie director than anything else. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do with such a large budget superhero action movie, but I'm interested. I'm here for it. The next one is also incredibly high on my anticipation list. That being said, like I really want to see it. It's one of my most anticipated. I don't have high expectations for it. It's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I wish I could tell you I'm super excited for this, and all the reviews have come back just super praising this movie. The only people that have seen it were at Cannes Film Festival, and it got apparently a middling applause. It did get a standing ovation, but mostly it sounds like because Harrison Ford was there, he was on stage afterwards, people were more applauding him than the movie, is the way they make it come across. That being said, as much as I love those big film festivals and the kind of movies they produce or bring out or get to show the world, maybe not the best audience for something like this. Like, I'm really curious to hear the average man's review of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny before I'll decide. I mean, I'm going to watch it myself and decide, but before I kind of get my hopes up or be like, oh, it's going to be another Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Indiana Jones has gone really, really good to bad to really good to bad, so maybe they'll be able to end it as a really good one and keep that kind of Star Trek tradition going of like one good, one bad, one good, one bad. I would really love this to end well. I really want this to be the last one as well because Harrison Ford is getting up there. But if they can pull this off, it's James Mangold directing this time. The other four have all been directed by Steven Spielberg, and I'm pretty okay for them to bring in new blood. Nothing against Steven Spielberg. Absolutely love him. His head's just in a different place right now. He's not making these big action movies at the moment. He's making the movie about his family. The one that just went for all the Oscars last year. I put in the comments if I'm totally blanking, and I apologize. The Fableman? The Fablemans. Good movie, well done, but just in a different headspace necessarily than what this movie deserves. James Mangold, on the other hand, made Ford versus Ferrari, which is a fantastic dad movie. Logan, really fun superhero movie. The Wolverine, which I enjoyed more than I probably should have, apparently. The internet didn't really care for it. And even went back, like, Girl Interrupted, which is not one that I ever saw, but always heard incredibly high praise for. So I'm really interested to see what James Mangold can do with this one. It's coming out June 30th. And shockingly, this has the highest budget of any movie coming out this summer. $295 million, which makes it the eighth most expensive movie of all time. Of all time. This is the eighth most expensive. Number one is Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, which had a budget of $397 million, which is absolutely bananas. Like, I don't even know what you spend money on at that point. Everybody's just getting paid, apparently. Me neither, but it is Indiana Jones. So excited. That was a huge movie. So much better than we had seen when it first came out. I was one when the first one came out. So I didn't get to see it in theaters, but obviously, it's one of those movies where I couldn't tell you the first time that I saw it, right? Like, Indiana Jones has been a part of my DNA like the original Star Wars trilogy has, where I couldn't tell you the first time I saw it. I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen it. I just know those movies. I've seen them my entire life. I watch them even to this day semi-regularly. I really enjoy them, specifically Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade. Liz says, now I feel old. Sorry about that, Liz. Specifically Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark. I don't revisit Temple of Doom all that much, and obviously I don't really revisit Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, although there are parts of that movie that I do really enjoy, and it might sound a little heretical, but I probably would put Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in before I would put Temple of Doom in. I know there's a lot of people who love Temple of Doom. It just doesn't do it for me in quite the same way. It doesn't have that same whimsy. I think it's the fact that Indiana Jones doesn't really do anything in that movie. Like, in all the other ones, he's actually actively pursuing something. And in Temple of Doom, things just keep happening to him, right? Like, he's not looking for anything. He's not trying to do anything. He's just kind of going along for the ride, which is fine. It just doesn't interest me as much as the ones where he's, like, actively trying to think things out and plan things out and go with the flow, but, like, figure things out on the fly. I just like the other ones better. Last Crusade is my favorite of the four. I'm hoping this one's good. I'm hoping it's at least number 3 of the 5. That would be fine for me. beat the other two out. Doesn't have to beat Last Crusade to be a success. So be it. Corey says that he just watched Ford versus Ferrari recently and it was good. Watched it again. Sorry, so he's seen it a couple of times. That's fantastic. I've seen Ford versus Ferrari maybe 3 times. Enjoyed it every single time. It is. I feel like if this movie came out 20 years ago, it would be the perfect TBS movie. What I mean by that is the kind of movie where you can come in at any point of the movie and be like, oh, cool, this is what I'm doing for the next hour and a half. Or 20 minutes or half an hour or whatever is left of the movie. It's kind of like it should have been Shawshank Redemption if TBS was still a thing and people still watched cable nowadays, right? Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Shawshank Redemption is just one of those movies you can come in at any point and you're just like, all right, well, that's 2 hours of my life gone in a good way. So June 30th, Indiana Jones. I'm definitely be checking it out as quickly as I possibly can. My kids have seen Raiders, and I think that's it. So I'll probably leave them at home on this one. Although I've got 2-3 weeks, maybe we can bump out 1 or 2 more before then. We'll see how it goes. The next one is actually a double feature. And what I mean by that is they both come out the same weekend. They have nothing to do with each other. Oppenheimer and Barbie both come out July 21st. Oppenheimer is the most recent movie by Christopher Nolan, who is a director that I am absolutely in love with, as is most of the internet. That being said, my least favorite movie of his is the World War II, the historical Dunkirk. Pretty sure it's World War II. Anyways, so because Oppenheimer is about the scientist who created the nuclear bomb, I am not a history buff. I apologize if I get any parts of this wrong. Please tell me how incredibly stupid I am in the comments. That's fine. I'm looking forward to see it because of the talent involved. Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, Kenneth Branagh, like Gary Oldman. The list just goes on and on. Rami Malek, Josh Hartnett. Like, this movie has an insane cast. And it's directed by Christopher Nolan, who I have an incredible love for. It's got a $100 million budget. I'm sure that it'll blow that away because most people seem to really like Christopher Nolan. And with the subject matter, it'll kind of reach both those, like the newer audiences who like Christopher Nolan and his movies are going to go see it because it's him. And you'll probably get, sorry if this offends, some older audiences who are more interested in the historical accuracies of the movie and kind of seeing that element of it. I'll admit, I'm curious to see it for both because, as I said, I'm not a history buff. I don't know that much about the creation of the bomb. I'm hoping it's an incredibly accurate movie so that I can maybe learn along with it. Not that I go to the movies to learn, because that's a terrible way to learn your history most of the time. But should be fun, should be interesting. Let's check out that trailer right now. I don't think I've seen this trailer. I don't think I've seen any trailers for this movie. Ooh. one of those films where it's easy to look at that trailer and kind of just be like, well, it's an explosion. We've seen explosions before. If you're not actually thinking about what that means and like what became of that, like some of the imagery there is very, very powerful, and you almost have to remind yourself, even though you're definitely watching a movie and it's definitely CG or practical effects of some kind, is not the real thing. This is a true story. Like, that really happened. They really did make a bomb that insane, and they used it on people. Granted, it was to stop a war, but it's going to be a heavy watch. Like, no matter what, it is going to be a hard watch. Not a hard watch necessarily, but just, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fantastic, but it could be a lot to try and handle. Liz says, Dunkirk had told a story. Yeah, let's try that one again. Dunkirk told a story no one knew. That with the Winston Churchill and The Crown put it all together. And I'm assuming with the Winston Churchill, you're talking about the Gary Oldman movie, and The Crown was the Netflix series. So watching all three of those together, like, created a puzzle piece for you, or like painted that picture for you. I'm assuming that's what you mean by that. I didn't see the Gary Oldman movie, which name I'm totally blanking on right now, but I did watch multiple seasons of The Crown. I didn't dislike Dunkirk. It was very well made. My issues with Dunkirk were the way they told the story. She confirms, yes. The way they told the story so that it was non-linear usually works for Christopher Nolan, but in this one just kind of made it a little bit more confusing, which the story didn't really need. And my own personal stupidity with faces, all of the people that he casted, all the soldiers, and maybe this was entirely on purpose. Maybe that was something that he was trying to say with the movie. All of the soldiers looked the exact same to me. So I could never emotionally connect to them because I never knew who I was looking at. Call me an idiot, call me face dumb, whatever you need to do. It just didn't resonate with me. Like, in a movie like that, you should be really, really emotionally connecting with these characters who are putting their lives on the line, who are dying en masse. And it's hard to care because they just, who's that? Faceless guy number 7. Okay. Faceless guy number 7 died. So be it. Matt Dingo confirms that those were practical special effects for the explosions, which is awesome. I am a big fan of CG, but I think they need to use it more sparingly. Practical effects are the way to go. They look better over time, which is really great. So I am here for that. As far as Oppenheimer goes, I think I already said it's got a $100 million budget. It's coming out July 21st. I'm going to be there, probably not opening day. Like, I'll probably let it go for like a week or two so I can get in there. There's a lot of movies where you want to be part of the initial experience and you want to get there before there's any spoilers. I feel like this is a movie theater where I'm going to be okay sitting in it where it's like half empty or mostly empty, and I can just absorb the movie a little bit better. That's what I'm thinking. Let me know if that doesn't make sense for you guys, but that's where I'm at. Spider-Verse, consequently, great movie to see with a loaded theater. So much fun. The next one, as I said, Barbie opens the exact same day as Oppenheimer. I know a couple of my friends are talking about doing a double feature and checking both movies out on the same day just for the stark contrast between the two. I haven't really seen any trailers for this movie because it's not really on my radar. I know that my wife would like to see it, so I'll probably take her and we'll enjoy it together. I'm sure what I have seen looks cute, but it's just not something that's jumping out at me. Obviously, Barbie based on the toy line. I just have Transformers, which is also based on a toy line. So, yeah, just obviously whichever toy line is more aimed at you. It does have a $100 million budget, also just like Oppenheimer did. Comes out the same day. Directed by Greta Gerwig, who did Lady Bird and the Little Women movie a couple of years ago, which was also up for an Oscar. She does really good work. I'd be hard pressed to say that she makes movies aimed at me, which is not to be said that makes them worse or any less than. I actually really enjoyed her Little Women. I have never seen previous Little Women before, so I walked into it not really knowing what the story was. I know some people didn't enjoy it as much as the 93 one with Winona Ryder, but having never seen that one, didn't have anything to compare it to, and I actually thought it was really well made. Again, not something I went out of my way for, but when I saw it, I enjoyed it. Elizabeth says, opening day for Barbie then, making fun saying that I'll have to go see that instead. And that Barbie is going to the real world. Is that what this is? Is this real world? Like, I know that she's played by a real actress, but is she actually coming to the real world? Let's watch and find out. floor, stuck in that pose like her feet always were in the movie. Starts out as a doll and goes to the real world. What was that? Is there like a Barbie storyline? Like, did she have like? I thought she was just a doll, but did she actually have a story or a world, or like, did they ever make a movie or a cartoon? Like, I know they make cartoons, my kids have watched them, but like, is there lore? I guess that's what I'm trying to get. Is there any lore to Barbie, or is she just a doll? Oh, nice. Okay. There's a ton of people in this movie that I'm recognizing that I had no idea were in this movie. That's kind of fun. Ryan Gosling, sunglasses over the sunglasses. Girl's imagination, but Toy Story ventured there. All right, that got a laugh. I'll give it to it. Can't complain about that. Um, Ryan Gosling, funnily enough, grew up not that far from here. I think he grew up, or was at least born in St. Thomas. Probably shouldn't say where I am. Whatever. About 45 minutes away. Kind of cool. I know that he dated Rachel McAdams, who I know people who went to school with her. That's my closest thing to a name drop that I've got. Cool. Not a whole lot else to say. I will say the cast surprised me. I didn't really like. I kind of copied and pasted it so I'd have something to talk about, but I didn't actually read it before. So Will Ferrell, obviously. America Ferrera, I recognized her, but I didn't quite get the name. Michael Cera, I didn't even see him. Was he in there? Interesting. I haven't seen Michael Cera in anything in a while. Anyways, that, as I said, like, I'll probably have to check. Not have to. I'll probably check that out with my wife when it comes out. Not the most excited for it, but so be it. The next one I actually am really excited for, which surprised me because I wasn't really a fan of them growing up. I was a little bit. My friends were always into them. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem. It's another animated movie, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were not something I was allowed to play with as a kid because they were too violent, despite the fact that they have weapons and never actually touch anybody with them. They just kind of use them to lob pizzas at people and do silly things like that. So be it. Giant robots with guns, totally fine. Ninja Turtles throwing pizzas at people, past the line. Parents are weird. What do you want me to say? This movie actually looks really, really fun. I like the animation style. I like what you hear from the voice acting. I don't know if I've seen this trailer, but I've seen a trailer for this movie. It looks really fun. My kids are going to absolutely love this. They really enjoyed the Nickelodeon version. So I think this one could be a serious hit on their hands. Maybe not quite to the point that like Into the Spider-Verse was a couple of years ago for Sony, but definitely this could maybe revitalize the Turtles. I love that they're younger. You usually see the Ninja Turtles, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they're like 30. So it's kind of fun that these ones are like 12. Like they're taking the other side of the spectrum. Some people have bumped up against that because They are so young, they've got really kid voices, but I'm pretty okay with that, and you're giving kid voice actors something to do, which is fun. The only thing I could find on the budget of this said that it was $200 million, which I can't imagine is accurate. Like that's insane. It's got a good voice cast, but nobody that's like super high level that they'd really have to pay that much. This is admitted. If you remember, Across the Spider Verse was $100 million, so this is double that budget. That just doesn't seem likely to me. But I couldn't find it anywhere else, so I'm going with it being 200 million. But even when I wrote it down, I put a question mark behind it because that just seemed dumb to me. It's coming out August 4th, directed by Jeff Rowe, who wrote and co-directed Mitchell's versus the Machines, which you can find on Netflix. Excuse me. Absolutely fantastic movie, very funny, and actually pretty emotional as the father is taking his daughter to college for the first time and they have to go on a road trip. They end up having to save humanity, but like that's the core of the movie, is that father and daughter relationship. As a father of three daughters myself, it hit pretty well. Admittedly, my kids are nowhere near college age yet, but there was still that feeling of like your kids are growing up and you're finding it harder and harder to connect, and all of a sudden things you liked, they always liked, they're turning into their own people. Like they're becoming their own thing. Anyways, this isn't nothing about Mitchell's versus the Machines, but I will say if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's on Netflix. It's absolutely worth your time. And that's the only credit I could find for him as a director. So this is essentially a first-time director because that was co-directed. So this is his first time going out on his own, and we'll see how well he can do with it. We've got known actors such as Jackie Chan, Rose Byrne, John Cena, Seth Rogen, Post Malone, Ice Cube, Maya Rudolph, Paul Rudd. Like there's some good actors in there, but I think the four main turtles are relatively unknowns. I'm not 100% on that, but we'll watch the trailer and I'll see if I can pick any of the voices. Let me know if you can pick any of the voices. It looks a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this one. This is maybe after Indiana Jones, the next one that I'm really excited for. And actually, this one has a better chance of being good. A little sensitive there. The graphics aren't as active as Spider-Verse, which actually might be a good thing. I really do think it looks good. I'm sure people are going to complain if that is April O'Neil, that she doesn't look like she's supposed to. Whatever, she looks fine. Who is Superfly? So is it not Shredder? Is it not Shredder that's the main bad guy? I like the soundtrack. Superfly is actually a fly. Bebop, Rocksteady. No idea what that is. So is it Baxter Wardrum? Is that what the fly was? It's Ice Cube. Okay. The turtle van. Quite the cast. Quite a strong cast. Really strong looking movie. I'm looking forward to it. As I said, didn't grow up with the Turtles. Like they weren't really my thing. I knew them. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. Of course they were around. I actually remember going to a friend's birthday party and seeing the very first one back in was it 1990, 91? 1990, the live action one, at a birthday party, and it almost felt like I was doing something wrong. My parents knew where I worked, like they allowed it to happen, but like it just felt wrong because I was never allowed to watch the cartoon. And I remember like not getting most, like enjoying it for what it was at like 7, I guess, 8 maybe, but just not really engaging with it the way that all of my other friends were who were big into the Turtles. That movie, I have a little quote here, cost $13 million for the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live action, made well over $200 million. Everybody was predicting this was going to be a gigantic flop, laughing at it, saying how awful it was going to be. And New Line Cinema just laughing all the way to the bank. $200 million off a $13 million investment. That's just box office. Like I'm sure, like in movie sales and stuff like that, it did well. I'm sure it sold a ton of toys. That movie was huge back then. It probably looks like awful now. I haven't seen it in forever. I don't plan on it, but at the time, that was a big deal. Getting a live action Ninja Turtles movie. That being said, the Ninja Turtles are kind of like Spider-Man, where I realize I keep going back to Spider-Man. I apologize. It was so good. It's just on my brain. But Across the Spider-Verse, I leaned over to my friend at one point and was just like, I don't really need to see another live action Spider-Man movie because he just doesn't move properly. Like he just looks so much better in animation because of the way they can get him to move and the things they can get him to do. And that's kind of true for the Ninja Turtles too, where the way they were moving in this, like the Michael Bay one or the ones from the 90s, like they look rubbery, they look cartoony, they look wrong in the universe that they're in. This looks so good. Like they fit that universe, they can move the way they're supposed to, they can actually be ninjas. I think it's the way to go. I think they're very smart for making it animated and not live action. And they're saving a bunch of money too, although not if it actually costs $200 million. All right, the last one we're going to talk about, I am torn on because the first time I saw this trailer, I was all in. I thought it looked so good and I just wanted to check it out. And then I watched the trailer again. I actually leaned over to my buddy who started before the Transformers movie just this evening. And I leaned over to my buddy, he's like, oh, this one looks good. And then as I was watching the trailer, I was like, does this look good? Am I actually super excited for this? It's Blue Beetle. It's coming out August 18th. It's got a budget of $120 million, which is actually pretty conservative for superhero movies at this point. I don't know. I really like the main character. He's, I'm going to get this name wrong and I apologize, Zolo Maridueña. He was the main character on Cobra Kai, which is a fantastic show. Was on YouTube, now it's on Netflix. It's got Susan Sarandon, George Lopez. Decent enough cast. The director, I don't know from anything. It's Angel Manuel Soto. The highest ranked movie he had was called The Farm, but I have no idea what that is. We'll see. Like, I'm not sure what to think about this one. I'm curious. I've seen this trailer twice now. The first time I really liked it. The second time I was a little colder on it. We'll watch it again and see how we feel. But I don't know. I feel like maybe the talent's going to make me watch this more so than anything else. But let me know what you think. If it plays. Mad Dingo says the trailer for Ninja Turtles was the first thing he ever bought on DVD, which is impressive because you're young. So those are old movies for you. I only know Blue Beetle from the Justice League, Young Justice, and I really liked him on that, but I can't say I know much about his character as far as like how accurate this is or inaccurate. I do kind of like this little almost body horror scene though, where it attacks him and grows out of his back and his whole family's freaking out. Like that's creepy attack. So it might have kind of a fun Venom thing where he has that back and forth with the thing taking over his body. Could be a lot of fun. It looks good. Like, it's a good looking scene. Costume looks all right. Again, I'm not super confident what the costume is supposed to look like, but I don't know why. I love that. I love that little like hand splash into the water. Every time. It's just like, that's cool. No sound? Is there sound now? I'm being told there's no sound for the Blue Beetle video. Is there any sound for it now, or? Well, being told now that can I show this? New comments will display here. Okay, so not the old comments. Uh, being told now that there was no sound for any of those videos. Hour and 10 minutes in. Might be better because then I won't get copyright striked, but kind of unfortunate. I wish I'd known that so I could have tried to fix that earlier on, but so be it. Saying no sound, no sound. And then Mad Dingo says that is extremely close to at least the version I grew up with visually. Now, curious, what version was that? Did you read the comics, or was that Young Justice or Justice League, something like that? Super curious where that came from. But I mean, watching that trailer again, I will say it does look like it's going to be fun, but maybe I'm not as hyped for it as I originally was. Like, I'm definitely going to check it out, but maybe not day one, right? Like, maybe I'll wait for video on that one. I'm sure it'll come to HBO Max or something, maybe Netflix, but we'll have to see. I really like the main actor. I absolutely love him in Cobra Kai. So Liz says, sorry, she didn't know there was supposed to be sound. That's totally fine. And yeah, so that brings us to the end of August. Starting in September, you're actually into the fall season. So I'm sure we'll get into that closer to that date. Things are kind of moving around. Disney today actually just changed a lot of movie dates of stuff coming out for like the Avatar movies, the Marvel movies. A lot of that has to do with the writer's strike, and I'm actually super okay with it because if you don't have writers, you're not going to have good movies, right? Like something like Deadpool 3, because Ryan Reynolds is a writer on the movie, because he improvs so much of it, you kind of have to have him able to do that. Like, he's going to come up with the best lines the day of, in the moment. And if you're not getting the best lines for a movie like that, why are you even watching that movie? Like, I would much rather have Deadpool be pushed back a year, have the writer's strike finish out, let them go back to work, let them get paid, hashtag pay the writers, and bring the best movie they could possibly do. Matt Dingo says he read the comics mostly, but also Young Justice as well, as far as the costume goes for Blue Beetle. So that's cool. That's also my intake on the character, so that makes sense. And yeah, if they're going to push back, Avatar got pushed back a year or two, I think, for each one. A bunch of the Marvel movies got pushed back. If that's the reason, if they are waiting to pay the writers and to get the best scripts they can possibly get, I'm totally here for it. I'm very much on board. So yeah, we'll have to wait until later on in the year to do more of the fall and winter ones. Fall and winter is when you're starting to get into a lot more of Oscar movies or Oscar bait movies. I generally try to watch all 10 Oscar movies before the Oscar night so that I can kind of play along and see how I'm doing. So there will definitely be videos on that as we get closer to that date, but it's pretty rare for a movie to come out this early in the year to actually affect the Oscars. Obviously, Everything Everywhere All at Once came out last March or April. Like, it was incredibly early, and for it to continue on and have that much press and get all the way through the end was impressive. My favorite movie of the year, so I was okay with it. Liz is asking about Fast and the Furious, and you're absolutely right. It wasn't on my radar. I didn't check it out. We can bring up a trailer super quick on that. I have fallen out with the Fast and the Furious movies. They just don't hit like they used to. partially because they're getting so far away from what they originally were. They were obviously started off as racing movies, started off originally as a ripoff of Point Break. I don't mind the cast. I don't even mind how cheesy it is. But you just got away from the cars and the racing, and it just got in, like, I didn't even watch 9, so I'm probably not going to watch 10, but like somebody said they went to outer space. Somebody said, and I don't even know if they were kidding or not, because I honestly can't tell because the series has gone so ridiculous. Somebody said that Vin Diesel has superpowers now, which I guess kind of makes sense because the Hobbs and Shaw spinoff, Idris Elba had superpowers. So it's just getting a little too ridiculous for me, but we'll check it out, see what it has to say. I'm sure it has to say something about family. I wish I knew why it wasn't playing sound. You know what? Let's try this a different way. This is all a new program for me, so what if I do this? Hey, let me know if there's sound when I play it like this.
Local kids, street racers who became hijackers.
That's Fast and
Graduated to
Furious.
high-speed smuggling, mobile jailbreaks, train robberies. If it could be done in a car, they did it. If it violates the laws of God,
Maybe it says there's
gravity,
sound. Excellent.
they did it twice.
Took an hour and a half. We got there.
But the days where one man behind the wheel of a car can make a difference are over.
This is what I'm
Time
talking
to
about.
prepare
What the
for
heck
what's
was that?
coming.
You might want to buckle up.
Ooh. I like Jason Momoa.
As I look out at this wonderful family, I am filled with so much pride.
Sorry, was Han there?
Dom Toretto.
Is Han
I
alive?
never would have gotten behind that wheel. I'd never be the man I am today. And now, I am the man who's going to break your family. Piece by piece.
What's up?
Uncle
John
Jacob?
Cena?
Your dad sent me.
As I said, this movie was not on my radar, so I'm actually getting surprised by the trailer.
Tommy, I knew you would come for me. I'm Dante. Enchante. So how about we all just start shooting each other?
That's what I came here for. Time to end this.
Let's dig some graves.
How is he alive? And why is he going to Jason Statham? Who killed him? Because it's Fast and Furious. Yeah, got my own answer.
Not
Fair
to
enough.
be trusted.
Hey, you ain't on my Christmas list either.
Cavalry's here. It's showtime. Shoot Tiny Tej.
Tiny Tej?
No, we never agreed on that.
We need weapons
We learned them?
and cars.
Mad Max, apparently?
Cannon cars. That was awesome.
You like surprises? I adore them.
How much time do we have?
About 4 minutes.
It'll have to do.
I'd stay down if I was you.
You'll need to hit me harder for that.
Is that Charlize Theron?
The game's over, Dom.
One trailer.
You lose. This is your last ride.
Maybe this is the end. But you know what? I smell magic.
They say when you're facing death, your life flashes before your eyes. Are they right?
If this is the finish line,
I'm not afraid.
Oh. Yeah. Can't tell if you're being serious or not, Liz. All right, let's turn that back off. So, I don't know. It's weird, and I get this is hypocritical. That doesn't really do it for me, and I know that it's dumb because the disbelief you have to have for that is the same you'd have to have for a giant robots fighting or superheroes movie. But for some reason in my brain, you can present me with anything, and if that's the way your movie works, I'm fine with it. If you want to tell me that a DeLorean can go back in time, I'm all in. But you can't change those rules halfway through. And I feel like because this started as such a grounded, realistic movie, and now it's to the point where they're like, oh, we're going to drive a car in outer space. Why not? It's a bridge too far for me. If they'd started off as a superhero movie where cars were stupid and could do things like that, then I'd kind of be like, all right, well, that's what we signed up for. It's fine. It's kind of like, weird that I'm about to compare these two things. The newest John Wick movie left me really, really cold. And I liked the other John Wick movies. I love the first one because the stakes and everything in the first one felt really grounded and felt like it was, I hate to say based in reality, but like you felt the weight of all the punches because he actually did get hurt. And he fought people in realistic ways. He was like the Baba Yaga. He was scary. He was intimidating, and he was larger than life. But it was all like a realistic larger than life, or at least a action movie's version of realistic larger than life. Once you get to the point where in the fourth movie, if you've seen it, like for some reason he's taking like headshots with a gun and they're not killing him, and he's totally fine. He's jumping out of 4-story buildings and hitting cars that are going 70 miles an hour, and he just gets up and walks away. And you're just kind of like, well, what am I watching for anymore? Like, there's no stakes, there's no danger, nothing bad is going to happen to him. He says like 8 lines in the entire movie, so I'm not connecting to his character. Like, they're cool action scenes, but you're so disconnected from reality that you just don't care. That's how I felt, at least. And that's kind of how I feel when I watch that Fast and Furious trailer. It's just, if you can turn your brain off for 2 hours and just have those colors shine over your face, fantastic. That's great. I'm not going to take anything away from you. I don't want to yuck your yum. It's just not for me, and that's probably why I didn't put it on my list originally, because I just don't care. It's just not something I'm looking forward to, and I guess I got a couple of minutes of content out of it, but it's not one that I necessarily thought I had a whole lot to say about. So, that's it. We have talked about all the movies that I was planning on talking about. I will be back next week with another live stream. Hopefully I can corral somebody to come and join me. We can have a little back and forth. I don't know exactly what the take will be on the next one as far as what my conversation will be about. But if you're following me on YouTube, if you're following me on Facebook, I'll probably put something there talking about when it's coming out, when the next, what the next topic is going to be. Feel free to join me. I'll just put them up again for a second. If you have Twitch and you want to come over there and say hi, that'd be fantastic. I need to get up to 50 followers, I think it is, and I'm currently around less than that, let's just say. The YouTube channel, my gaming YouTube channel is doing just fine, but this channel is brand new. It's only been around for about 2 weeks, and I'd love to see it grow. I really like my gaming channel. I'm very happy that it's doing as well as it is, but this is the one that I'd love to see get a little bit bigger. I feel like this one maybe doesn't have quite the same ceiling that the gaming channel does for Marvel Strike Force. Still have a lot of fun with that. Still definitely going to make Marvel Strike Force videos over there at youtube.com/@Mongooli's Gaming Show. This is Mongooli's Movie Show, so please go there, give me a like, give me a subscribe if you can, if you've got a subscription. And if you've got Discord, come say hi to me over there. Discord.io/The Mongooli Show. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I've had consistent chats with some people here the entire time. I've seen there's been some viewers here for quite some time. I really appreciate that. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time.